next guest is a successful playwright, New York Times best-selling author, and he also teaches at Virginia Tech. His new novel, Tufts, is based in part on historical events surrounding gangster Vince Call, and he takes readers on an unforgettable journey. We welcome Ed Falco to Virginia this morning. Hey, good morning, Ed, and congratulations on this new novel, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is number what in your books?
This is my 10th book.
10th book.
Right.
What is it like to see your books in print on the shelves?
It's wonderful, especially in the digital age when books are disappearing and a lot of them are going to Kindles and iBooks. The actual physical book is a real treat, a real pleasure to hold in your hand.
Yeah, especially reading at the beach. You like to have sand in the
pages.
You can't,
absolutely.
Sand in the Kindle is not a good thing.
No.
Tell us, take us on down the road of Tufts. Where you came up with this idea?
Well, my previous novel was the prequel to The Godfather called The Family Corleone. And in that novel, I had to research Depression-era gangsters, and I kept coming across Vince Call. I kept coming across him as a particularly feared criminal in that era, in that time. In fact, I used some of the stuff that Vince Call actually did to create my Luca Brasi character. Luca Brasi is the real bad guy in The Godfather, and I was looking for things that he could do that were pretty terrible to make him frightening, and I kept coming across stuff that Vince Call had actually done. So a lot of what Vince Call actually did in real life, I assigned to Luca Brasi. I got so fascinated with this guy that I decided I wanted to write my next book with him as the central character.
And you came up with another character, Loretto Jones.
Now, Loretto Jones is an imagined character. Vince Call is fascinating. He's one of the many sort of abandoned children in New York in the 30s who just grow up on the streets. And Vince Call grew up in orphanages and prisons, basically, because his parents had abandoned him. So I imagined another character who had known Call and grown up with him in an orphanage. The orphanage was called Mount Loretto, and I imagined him abandoned there, and so I gave him the name of the orphanage, Loretto Jones. And he's my fictional character who grows up befriending and being a friend of Vince Call's.
And let's say they're not altar boys, these two.
Nah, they're bad. They're bad guys, and they do some terrible things. But the novel is interested in the cultural circumstances that lead to the kind of behavior. Essentially, they grow up in a world where there's no other way. There's no sort of other possibility of achieving the kind of life they see everywhere around them. And one of the reasons I was interested in Call is because there are lots of parallels I see between the 1930s and Prohibition and our current time with the drug trade. So these gangsters who found that they could make a fortune by selling alcohol, which was legal at the time, kind of parallel our contemporary characters who were making money selling drugs. And there are a lot of things that are similar, and so I got interested in the parallels between those two. Vince Call becomes famous briefly when he tries to kidnap one of Dutch Schultz's henchmen, and in the shootout on 107th Street in New York, he winds up shooting a bunch of Italian kids. It's not intentional, but it's a drive-by shooting kind of thing. And one of the children, Michael Vengola, dies, and he becomes tagged Mad Dog Call, and from then on he's Mad Dog Call. And he spends the rest of his time running from the police and fighting all of the major criminals, Lucky Luciano, Dutch Schultz, Owen Madden, who's one of the last great Irish gangsters, Al Capone. They actually all meet in the Forest Hotel in New York and get together to try to find some way to stop this one kid. He's 23 years old at the time, and he's fighting every gangster in the city, the entire New York City police force. The police commissioner, Edward P. Mulrooney, issued a shoot-to-kill order for him. Said, shoot above the waist, don't wait for him to draw first.
If you can, we have about a minute left here. Could you read this one passage about a drive-by? It's a fascinating tale.
Thank you. This is Loretto on the street, just waiting to be picked up by a friend, and he happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the drive-by shooting happens while he's there. So Loretto on 107th Street had already sweat through his undershirt, staining the armpits of a white dress shirt he'd bought at Saks for $8 the day before, an expensive birthday present to himself. He loosened his tie, unbuttoned the collar, and pulled down the brim of his fedora to keep the sun out of his eyes. He was waiting for Dominic Caparino to pick him up in his battered 1926 Packard, Dom's pride and his heartache. A once fine automobile with leather interior and dark green carpeting that had been used hard ferrying whiskey out of Canada and now ran or didn't run according to its own whims. It was almost 6:30. The temperature mid-afternoon was 94, making it the hottest day of the year. Those are all historically accurate moments.
The reviewers call it a hard-hitting crime novel, really atmospheric and gritty with authentic-sounding characters. Ed, we wish you well. Congratulations on this new novel, and we wish you continued success, my friend.
Thanks. I'll be over at Fountain Books right after they're signing some copies, so if anybody wants to stop by,
get on down.
Fountain Books.
It's an early stocking stuffer. How about that? All right. Hey, the book is called Tufts and is now available. Thanks so much, Ed.